Hi there, and we're back with another mini copywriting review. Hi, I'm Paige from the Impact Copywriter, and today we're looking at a landing page that is promoting a free 90-day home workout plan. We're going to look at some ways we could potentially optimize this landing page in order to increase its conversion rate. So to turn more visitors into signups. Now, keep in mind, this is an in the wild landing page. I don't have a whole lot of background info about their target market and their customer personas and kind of how this free offer fits into their overall larger sales funnel. So we're going to have to make some inferences here, using what I know about the company, using observations we can make from the landing page itself, and from my personal experience of kind of interacting with this brand. All right, so let's get to optimizing. Now, the first observation I made was that the headline is purely informative. It's essentially describing the download, just telling you what it is, a free 90-day home workout plan. So other than it being free, nothing about the present headline hooks the visitor with why they'd actually want to download this. Just it being a home workout plan, those are all over the internet, right? So what makes you want to download this specific plan? So my first recommendation would be to rework the headline, the main headline for the landing page, to focus more on what these visitors are trying to achieve. Like, what is that ultimate goal? So here's what a potential rewrite of the hero section could look like. So instead of using the 90-day home workout plan as the core headline, which it doesn't really say anything about the value of the resource, instead, we're using that as eyebrow copy so that we can still maintain a message match if we're using ads or social media posts or links on the website that are leading or sort of advertising or promoting the home workout plan. By using it as eyebrow copy, we're keeping with that message match. They know they're in the right place. Now, for the core headline, we are connecting back to the bigger goal, of course, assuming that we're pulling this from VOC, right? Something like sculpt sexier muscles from the comfort of your living room. Now, I've highlighted that even though this is a home workout plan, push yourself to be more specific, anywhere you can that it makes sense. So in this instance, instead of saying home, like sculpt sexier muscles from the comfort of your home or from home, home is kind of blah, right? It's just, it's not as specific as we could be. So that's why I've chosen to use from the comfort of your living room. You could easily choose another room in the house from the comfort of your garage, but most likely anyone reading this page is going to have a living room. Not everyone has a garage. Now, remember, pull from VOC if you know that people are working out from home and the majority of those are working out from their garage or outside or in their yard or wherever. You want to, pull the data that you have from the research that you have so that you can better align with that real experience of the people who are coming to you. And then we have a bit of body copy underneath the headline that says, yes, really. So if they're thinking, can I really sculpt sexier muscles from home? Maybe they've tried a lot of things and there's some resistance. Maybe we know that there's a little bit of disbelief around them being able to do this without having an expensive gym membership and access to all that equipment that you would find in a gym. We're already, meeting that a little bit. We're not really countering the belief, but we are acknowledging that they might have some disbelief in that. We're saying, yes, really, you can. All you need is 2 dumbbells and a resistance band. With that sentence, we're already pre-countering some potential objections that they might have around the type of equipment, either it being expensive or complicated that they might have to use, even if this is an at-home workout plan. Now, as always, when we're doing optimization, coming up with things to test when we're optimizing, we want to make sure we're going back to that VOC or voice of customer research, because we want to make sure that all of our decisions are based on some sort of data so we know that we are making decisions that are more aligned with the ideal buyer or the ideal customer that we're trying to reach. Something I flagged when I was coming up with ideas for the headline was muscles, the word muscles, because I know in this space for women, building bulky muscles or thinking that resistance training builds bulky man-like muscles is something that a large group of women are afraid of. And so muscles in this context may be the wrong word, because there's too much resistance there, before we actually do all that belief breaking down and reframing that so that they understand that that's not necessarily true. But if a visitor who has a lot of resistance towards thinking that resistance training will build bulky, manly muscles, and that's not what they want, then muscles is a word that we don't want to use, right? Because it's going to trigger hesitation and concern and, connect to that resistance that visitor has. So if our research did in fact suggest that muscles was too much of a trigger word because of objections around building bulky, manly muscles, then, a potential solution for that would just be to swap muscles for a similar word that carries much less resistance. So in this example, you can see that I've swapped muscles for a word that doesn't carry any of that emotional baggage. Sculpt a sexier figure from the comfort of your living room. Now, we could just as easily have used a word like physique or even, something more general like body. I liked the word figure because, it's a common way for women to express, I'm watching my figure. So the next observation was that our button is also very functional and informative, and it doesn't tie back to any big benefit as well. So, keeping in mind that we would be revamping the headline, then we want to rework that button just a little bit to make sure that we are connecting back to that benefit. So we might use a button that said, I'm ready to sculpt, send me the plan. So in the beginning part of that button copy, we're connecting back to the benefit that we're using in the headline. And then the ending part of that button copy, we're being consistent with what they're downloading. So instead of saying, free ebook like we're using here in the current version of the landing page, when we're actually offering a plan, even though it comes as a free ebook, there's a little bit of a mismatch there. So we want to make sure that we're very consistent with how we message our thing that we're offering. So if we're calling it a plan, let's go ahead and call it a plan in the button as well. Now, something I want to mention before we move forward is the difference between using the word sexy and using the word sexier. Now, this is something that I have just observed through conversations and talking with people and working kind of in the mindset space a little bit. And so I opted to use the word sexier because for someone who comes to this page and maybe they've tried a lot and they're really discouraged and, they have a lot of resistance towards even believing whether or not they can actually achieve a certain transformation, using an absolute term like sexy could feel unbelievable. And it could, bring with it more resistance because it feels like something that's unachievable. But if you use the sexier version of the word, it feels like an improvement. It feels like, well, I can get closer to that goal than just, using the absolute form of that word. Now, the next thing that snagged my attention was this train like an athlete bit of copy here, starting on the next section. And my concern is, do these women, knowing what we know about them, which is not a lot, we just know that they're women, will they resonate with train like an athlete? And that's something we would want to go back to our VOC to validate. Now, based on what I know about are the women who come, into this brand, into their free Facebook group, who are starting out, who are kind of in these earlier stages of awareness and sophistication, I would question whether or not they would resonate with train like an athlete, because based on my observations and time spent in the Facebook group, it seems that training like an athlete is a mindset that they don't have coming in. It's a mindset that they develop as they take Kim's paid programs and they learn to think about this transformation, this journey like an athlete would. When they come in, that's not how they think. So, if that's true, if we go back to our VOC and we discover that, that observation is actually pretty spot on, then we would want to, get rid of that copy because it's not going to resonate with these women who are just coming in, right? So then what do we do? So I think this is a great place to actually use a little bit of proof because, luckily the founder Kim here, she has an amazing transformation story and she has tons of photos. She's achieved an incredible physique using the same types of techniques and resistance training and weightlifting techniques that she teaches. So this section could be used as a proof section to help prove the claim that we're making in the new headline. So I would use this next section as a way to introduce Kim and tell the visitor about her transformation, because it does prove to some extent that this is possible. So we might write a proof section, a little something like this. Sculpted bodies aren't chiseled by secret diets, magic pills, or fat melting coffees. Resistance training is still the most reliable and lasting approach for building the body of your dreams. I'm proof. So what I've done here is I've set it up to introduce Kim's transformation, which is powerful proof alone. But what I've also done is kind of acknowledge where they are in the buyer's journey. So with our crosshead, that they have tried the secret diets that you see on the magazine covers, or the magic pills that have the new superfood of the month included as an ingredient, or those fat melting coffees that people are still messaging you about on Facebook. We're acknowledging those failed solutions and then setting up kind of that key shift that they need to understand that resistance training is the only way to build the body of their dreams in the most reliable manner and the way that's going to be long lasting. Now, I've also messaged it in a way that we're not claiming that resistance training is the new thing, because it's not, right? So, by saying resistance training is still the most reliable, we're kind of hinting on the idea that it worked before and it works now and it's going to continue to work. So it's not just some sort of gimmick. There's actually scientific data behind resistance training as the reliable means to get the type of body that they're wanting. And of course, those are things we would need to expand on throughout the messaging for the funnel. Now, notice that I said resistance training and not weightlifting. So, Kim does teach weightlifting techniques. Remember that we've already established that the term muscles and potentially weightlifting could be associated with that objection of, I don't want to lift weights and build bulky, manly muscles. So that choice was intentional, because we could easily say weightlifting here, and that would be accurate because she does teach weightlifting techniques. But weightlifting is also resistance training, and resistance training could potentially have less of emotional resistance. So for this section, after we've written the crosshead, we want to expand a little bit on her story, kind of where she was, what she struggled with, what she tried, then what she discovered, and how that changed, or how that's played a role into where she is today, right? So we want to briefly recap that transformation. And then, of course, we want to support it visually, is show before and afters. So what did she look like before she, started doing resistance training the way that she teaches? And then also an after picture, potentially of her standing in a bikini sculpted on stage in one of her competitions. Now, something else we could do on this page is to push our bullets a little bit further. So, for example, the first bullet reads 35 plus exercise instructional video. So we could ask ourselves, so what? Why does that matter? So we could add a little bit to the end that says 35 plus guided videos that show you how to complete the exercises the right way. We could even talk about, using the right form so you don't injure yourself, or using the right form so you get the most bang out of, every rep you complete. Now, our third bullet, training to failure, what it is and why it's important, I would consider flipping that a little bit, focusing on the why it's important part and kind of leaving out the what it is. So I wouldn't even mention training to failure because that's the technique. And so we could create more curiosity by not naming the technique, instead of focusing on why the technique is important. So for example, you could say something like, the secret transformation technique that sculpts your muscles in the quickest time possible. So you can see here we're naming the technique in more general terms without giving it away, which creates curiosity because we don't tell them what it is, but we do tell them why it's important in a way that ties back to what they care about. And so in this example, what they care about is sculpting muscles in the quickest time possible. Again, with our note that we would want to make sure that we are not using the word muscles if there's a lot of resistance to building muscle. Make sure you're paying attention to those word choices when specific words carry more emotional resistance. All right, to wrap up, when you're optimizing a landing page for a free resource like this one, remember that just because it's free doesn't make it valuable, right? So there's lots of free things offered on the internet. You really do have to communicate what's in it for them. What is it about this resource that's going to interest people in downloading it. So remember to channel that desire throughout the copy on your landing page. Happy optimizing.